Hello. This is kind of an important topic. What happens when the government bans something? So, with all these items laid out in front of the camera, it's obvious what I'm going to talk about here. What happens when the government bans these type of items? Knives, guns, whatever. Crossbows, slingshots. What happens when they're either banned, licensed, restricted, or they have any new regulation put over them? What happens? What is the consequences? Does crime go down? No, there's not really any evidence to suggest that it does. By banning something like these, what you're actually doing is you're stopping the responsible, law-abiding people from having access to them. These are the people who will use them responsibly. Now, you might think, well, you don't need these anyway. These are horrible things and no one should be allowed to have them. Well, you know what? You can think what you like. You're entitled to your opinion. In a supposed free country, it's okay to have an opinion. Although, in my opinion, we're not in a free country. So, we have various knives and guns here. None of these guns are live firing. But these are all items that I believe that will be banned or licensed or restricted in some manner. And I do want to talk about the consequences of that, because it's not just as black and white as, okay, it's banned, people can't have them. When the government bans something, they actually usually expect you to hand it over to the police for destruction, and a lot of the times you're not offered compensation. So you have lost a product that you have paid a lot of money for. Now, if you don't hand it over to them, they will forcefully take it from you. They will confiscate it. Now, if anyone else was to take your property, because this is your private property, if someone else came in your house and threatened you in some way, in this case, the police threatened you with arrest, if any other person did that, it would be, well, they would be charged with threatening behaviour, and they would be charged with either theft or attempted theft, I would imagine. So, unless you're planning to hurt someone or you have hurt someone, why should you be forced to give up your property, such as these items? Now, I'm going to go into even more further detail, and hopefully people understand, especially if you don't like these kind of things. I understand if you don't like them, okay? That's fine. But you should also be equally as understanding that this is people's private property and they have paid money for it. And by forcing them to give it up, that you're making them lose an awful lot of money. But it's not only the money, it's what they do with that product. Some people get a lot of enjoyment out of it. These things here, I get a lot of enjoyment out of these. These are my hobbies, these are my interests. And I did pay a lot of money for them. Not only that, some people have in their possession items that is passed down from their family, like their granddad or their uncle or their dad. A good example of this is many men, or even young boys, even some boys, get knives passed down from previous generations. So maybe a boy, when he gets to a certain age where he's responsible enough to handle a knife, maybe his dad will hand his granddad's knife down to him. So that's a knife that's been carried, or at least owned, by a dad and a granddad. That's quite a long time. So that's that knife has been in that person's family for a very long time. To then be told you can no longer have this, hand it in to the police for destruction, I dare say that's heartbreaking. Another good example of this is when we had the airgun licensing in Scotland. Many people had their dad's air rifles, their granddad's air rifles, even their great-granddad's air rifles. And they were forced to give it up. They were forced to hand it into the police for destruction if they didn't get a license. Why should they have to pay for something that's already theirs? Something that's been in their family for such a long time that obviously has a lot of sentimental value to them. It's heartbreaking, really. But that's just one consequence of what happens when the government bans something. Here's an example. This is just a blank firing pistol. It's unloaded. These cost £100. Now, I'm sure anyone could agree that £100 is a lot of money to lose. These are UK legal. Anyone over 18 can buy these. But could you imagine if the government was just to ban these? Now I have three. Two of them cost £100 each and the other one cost £50. So that's £250 there that I would lose if the government decided these were just to be banned and if they required people by law to hand them into the police. And there's thousands of people who own these guns across the UK. That's quite unfair, don't you think, that people should have to lose them? Not that they're really used in crime anyway. Now, another consequence of banning something is people who don't realise they actually own the item. I'll give you an example. I'm going to go back to the Scottish airgun licence. Now, airguns are not a new thing. Airguns, air rifles, air pistols, they've been along for probably hundreds of years. I know air rifles have existed since the 1700s anyway. So at least 300 years. So only now they need to be licensed. There was an estimated 500,000 airguns in Scotland. Now, in my opinion, that was a massive underestimate. That's assuming all those people knew about them. Some people actually do have air rifles in the attic, in the shed, in the garage, in the cupboard that they didn't know that they had, simply because it belonged to their father, their grandfather, and they died and, well, the air rifle was forgotten about. So that means those people, if for whatever reason the police was to investigate them for whatever reason, or whatever, if they come across that gun, they will be charged for being in illegal possession of an airgun that they didn't even know they had. And the police and the government have said themselves, these people will be prosecuted if they are found to be in possession of them, even if they did not realise they had it. That's really unfair. So a lot of people probably have been arrested for this. And they're also talking about licensing airguns in England and Wales. Now, the population of London alone is that of Scotland. So could you imagine the entirety of England plus Wales? How many airguns that would be? How many arrests that would amount to? But that's just one thing. Same with big knives. A lot of people probably think big knives, especially military style knives, should be banned. Well, again, the same thing applies. These aren't cheap. This particular piece cost £90. And I have quite a few knives. So if they were to suddenly ban these kind of knives and require that they be handed into the police for destruction, well, a lot of collectors are then going to be out of pocket by a lot of money. And it's not even these kind of knives that's used in crime. But yet we're going to be forced to have to give them up. And a lot of people use, knives like this for certain hobbies like camping. Nothing wrong with that. Or bushcraft, or even woodworking. Same with replica guns like this. If these were to be banned, well, you would be criminalising a lot of people. Thousands of people, I'd say tens of thousands of people own things like these. Could you just imagine if all these things in front of you were to suddenly be banned in one law? Now that's more than likely. Let's just, for the argument's sake, say they brought in a new Violent Crimes Reductions Act. The Violent Crimes Reductions Act already covers things like air guns, blank firers, knives, sexual violence, alcohol, that kind of thing. But let's just say that they banned all these things under a new version of the Violent Crimes Reductions Act. So they banned the possession of blank firing guns. They banned the possession of replica guns, such as this. This is just a wall hanger. They banned military style knives. They banned the possession on inert ammunition. How many millions of people are you criminalising? What are you going to do with them all? You're going to arrest them all. Now, of course, a lot of them won't be caught, and quite a few people will obviously hand them in for destruction or dispose of them with some other legal method, but most people wouldn't. And a lot of people wouldn't be aware because a lot of people who own these things just don't care to look. That's understandable because the law's complicated. I look at this kind of thing a lot, and I get quite confused. Now, for those who know their tools and their multi-tools, my knives, they'll notice I've got a Leatherman wave there. Why do I have a Leatherman wave there? Well, it's still a lock knife with a one-handed opening. What if they were to ban one-handed opening knives? Well, your Leatherman wave would still be banned. It's still a one-handed opening knife. Bearing in mind, you cannot legally carry this because it's a locking knife. You would think that because it's a multi-tool, it'd be excluded, but no, this is still covered. It's perfectly legal to own and carry a one-handed opening knife, such as this. But they could easily pass a law criminalising that. A lot of people have one-handed opening knives. By banning something or changing the law, you are criminalising a lot of people. So to recap, the consequences would be to make people lose a lot of money, to lose things that's been in their family for, a lot of years. You would stop people being able to do their hobby. Sometimes even their sport, like in my case with the Airgun thing. It's, you would criminalise hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. Just overnight. And I think this is, people should think about these things. A lot of people don't realise when a law is passed. Some people don't even know that airguns have to be licensed in Scotland. Other Scots don't even know that yet. I would just like people to think about these things before they blindly support these things being banned. It's I get it if you don't like it, but just understand that other people do like it, and these things are expensive. Okay, thank you for watching. I hope you found that interesting. Please give me a like and subscribe. See you soon.